Oh.
Okay, we're live. You know who I am. It's Alex Mondosian here, and I'm about to bring up someone on the big screen with whom I have not spoken in over 9 years. We actually, before talking about this session, we were talking about that, and he said 10. I think it's more like 9. I don't know. I like 9 because it's less. But the cool thing about this gentleman, thought leader, friend, marketer, author, musician, the cool thing about him is you start where you left off. So I will bring him up in a moment, but because you're here, it's no accident. So you know who I am. I'm Alex. I'm hanging out from San Rafael, California. And the street I'm on right now literally is 7.3 miles away from Lucas Valley Ranch, where it all started with Star Wars. That has nothing to do with this hangout, but I'm just saying it because I wanted to drop some names and just get your attention. So let me know where you're hanging out from. Now, we got our regulars here. We got Helen from Monterey. Hey, Helen. And Anna from Washington, D.C. Boy, that's a hotbed of activity these days. Carolyn from New Zealand. Kelly from Amelia Island, Florida. Sean from Charlotte. Muriel from South Africa. Pamela from Massachusetts. It's pretty cold out there today. Barbara from Newport News, Virginia. Michelle from the Netherlands. Welcome, Michelle. Again, use your keyboard and let us know where you're hanging out from, because when we start the formal part of this virtual book tour, it's a very special edition. It's a virtual book tour. And I'll talk about what that is and why it's important in a moment. But just check in, engage. I mean, this is what I've taught you over the years. The easiest way to get an engaged tribe during a virtual event like this hangout, like a webinar or teleseminar, is just get people to introduce themselves, and that means you. We have Bill Blake from Sarnia, Ontario, Canada, and Christina from Sweden. Welcome. And Dawn from Delaware. I love that. And we have Marlies from Nova Scotia, Canada. The reason my eyes start darting down is because I'm reading these names. Joseph from Las Vegas, Fatu from the United Kingdom. Ian, welcome, Ian. You're in Dubai today, and we have another Ian Marsh from Gold Coast, Australia, where I just was. Crystal Oliveira, welcome from Clovis. Jackie Moray from Seattle. And Bijou from India. Welcome, Bijou. And Frank from the Canary Islands. And we have Cheryl from Louisville, Colorado. A lot of people mispronounce that city. And Will from San Diego. I think that's enough, right? We've established there are a few people here. And as more people come on, just go ahead and you can chat with them and inspire them, encourage them to introduce themselves. Sue is here engaging with you, Sue Sierra. So we're going to begin this green room session. And during the green room, especially for a virtual book tour, now I've done nearly 100 of them, but I've rarely done them in a video setting. I've done them through teleseminars mostly. And so this gentleman I met back in 1994. I was living in Manhattan. I got a course from Nightingale Conant. And for some reason, he struck me as a P.T. Barnum scholar. I don't know why. And one of the things that was so interesting to me is when I learned that P.T. Barnum had 3 autobiographies that were written by other people, and he allowed them to be disseminated, and he got more acclaim and exposure by doing that. So I learned a lot from this gentleman, and he taught me a lot, not only about P.T. Barnum and marketing, but as he's gone more into the spiritual realm, we're in a group together called the Transformational Leadership Council. I've seen him at the National Speakers Association main conference in San Diego when I was there. I've seen him online and offline. I've seen him write, and I've seen him post. And he's got a new book out, and it's called The Miracle. And one of my favorite Einstein quotes is in that book. It's all about miracles, and I'm going to give you access to it. You already have one chapter that you can get, but I'll give you access to it as we lean into the formal session. So I want to bring up, and most of you guys know this gentleman. If you don't, where have you been for the past 20 years? But I want to bring up Joe VITALE. Joe, welcome. Where are you hanging out from today?
I'm at home. I'm in Central Texas today. I've been all over the world, but today it's time to just rest and live.
All right, cool. Well, what I know about you is you're an author, thought leader, and you've done a lot of work from The Secret onward in spiritually centered and thought leadership work. But not a lot of people know about your bucket list and what you've done, recently as a musician. So I want to hear about that, because I'm not going to ask you too much about that during the book tour. So
Okay.
Go ahead and enlighten us. Tell us what the bucket list was and what you do these days.
Well, I do everything. I do everything I want to do. I look at my bucket list and go, what haven't I done? And then I go and do it. You don't know this at all, I'm sure. I am now a bona fide strong man. I take metal. In fact, I got a bolt that I bent by hand. I have horseshoes that I bent by hand. I have a steel bar that I folded over. I've taken strongman training. I went and studied with Dennis Waitley, Dennis Rogers. Some of these people are the most famous strongmen in the world. And I had them come to my house and teach me how to do this kind of stuff. And so I'm doing for me, because it's, it was on the bucket list. And then I'm also a musician. I wasn't a musician when you and I met. It was on my bucket list about 6 years ago. I decided that I wanted to record my own music. I now have 15 albums out. I have 5 singer-songwriter albums. My band is in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. My drummer has the same name as me, and he's the drummer for Joe Walsh and Neil Young and a long list of rock and roll greats. I just had a songwriting lesson at the home of Melissa Etheridge. I am doing what I want to do, and on top of it, I'm still traveling, still speaking, still being in movies, film my own television show, got 14 episodes of that in the can, still writing books, and I make time to talk to old friends like you.
Well, I get to also put you on the big screen because you have a brand new book out.
Yes.
That's really the topic for today. It's a virtual book tour, and those of you who don't know what that is, it started for me in 2001. I saw Al Gore. He was vice president at one time, and he's in the news lately, but he was married at the time. He wrote a book called Join at the Heart with his wife back then, and it was here in Marin County. And I saw all these people like lined up, throngs of people trying to get into the bookstore. And I asked the person at the front desk, it was called Book Passage, which is a famous independent bookstore here in Marin. And I said, who's here? They said, Al Gore and Tipper Gore. I said, how many books did they sell? They said 440. I said, wow, that's a lot of books for a physical book signing. But then I figured out at $2 a book, that's not even a first class ticket from Washington, D.C. So I thought, man, why don't we do virtual book tours? And we did them through teleseminars, many names you'd recognize. And now with video, we're doing it. And I'm so happy that we're re-energizing and rejuvenating that concept with my good friend, Joe VITALE, with no better title than I can think of. It's called The Miracle. So talk about the title just a little bit. I'll go deeper into what inspired the book, but where'd you come up with the title?
Well, I'll tell you, it was a natural evolution of my own conversation. I kept telling everybody that what we typically say is to expect crap to happen, to expect, more bluntly, shit to happen. And I kept thinking, that's the wrong mindset. That's the wrong paradigm to come from. Because if you expect the worst, your mind's going to look for the worst. And so I started signing all of my emails when I mail them out to my list, expect miracles. And I would sign my blog post, expect miracles. And I wouldn't even explain it. I would just say, expect miracles, and let people read it and wrestle with it. Well, as time went on, it became a catchphrase. It became something I stood for. Then I went and created Miracles Coaching, because I think everybody needs a coach. Everybody needs somebody on the outside of you to pull out of you and to see what your own nest of beliefs are. And I created Miracles Coaching. So the word miracle has just been singing through my life here with little phrases, with my Miracles Coaching. When it came time to writing the book, I really thought, life itself is the miracle. And I want to write a book that really, and you just disappeared. No, you didn't. You're putting up my book. Thank you. And I wanted to say that life itself is a miracle. We're all looking for something else, and that's fine and dandy. We can achieve it. We can attract it. There's ways to manifest it. But the miracle is right now. And so I just decided that would be a catchy title, The Miracle, 6 Steps to Enlightenment.
All right, so I mute out every time I stop talking, but I wanted to put this up early because this is the page to go to, and I'll give the domain in just a moment. Sue can type it in. It's marketingonline.com/miracle. You can forward that to anyone because that will be evergreen forever as long as this page is up. And when you come here, marketingonline.com/miracle, then just type in your email address, your first name, and then the Amazon receipt number. So bottom line, what do you want them to do here, Joe, so they're crystal clear?
Yeah, I want them to go buy a copy of the book, at least one. You can buy it as a printed paperback. You can buy the Kindle version, and you can even buy the audio version. I don't care which one of the versions you get, but buy at least one of this book. And then put your receipt from Amazon in that space, your name, email, and your receipt, and you will get access to $6,300 worth of bonuses. And these are meaty bonuses. These are the kind of bonuses that other people are charging anywhere from $50 to $2,000 per item. I didn't plan for it to be so overwhelming with such a bonanza product, but people kept contributing such wonderful things because they supported the book, they were supporting me, which I'm so touched for. But the whole idea is get at least one book. If you get more than one book, we got other prizes and other freebies for you, but get one. Paperback, Kindle, or audio versions are all available, all on Amazon.
All right, awesome. I'm doing the screen share tour, so
yeah,
we'll get to that. That's the call to action for today. It's just one. Marketingonline.com/miracle. It forwards there, and then type in your order ID so you can get those bonuses. And this virtual book tour recording can be one of those bonuses after Joe and I are done. So we're going to do what we always do. If you've been with us, then you know. If you haven't, then don't think it's a little weird, but this is what I do. I count down, and then I'll put up this card that says stand by, and then turn up the volume. I know you can read, but I'm just saying it just for kicks. Come on, just do it. It'll be worth it. And then ready? Okay, I'm going to start talking now. Now I'll be talking through the whole thing. Just a little tip. When you do Facebook Live, which is what we do, we've found that we got 10 to up to 25 times more viewership when we did these cards because the default is mute. So these cards, as kind of corny as they may be, they get exposure and viewership. And my goal today is not to do, I'm not getting paid for this, is not to encourage you to buy one book. That's not my goal. My job is to encourage you to buy 3 books, 25 books. I mean, minimum 3. Because you have one for yourself, one for a loved one, and one, listen carefully, for someone who's given up on miracles. You know, I mean, if you look at it, and I'm not going to say this during the virtual book tour, but you beat out about 500 million people getting in. You're a good swimmer, but 500 million people. Now, maybe back in the day, depending on how old you are, there were probably even more competitors than they are today, I've heard. But your dad released you. Your mom received you, whether you get along with them or not, whether they're living or not. And somehow, through a miracle, you were microscopic, you got in, you beat everyone else out. You were born a winner, right? You were conceived a winner. And then hopefully, for your mom's sake, you came out head first about 40 weeks later, and bam, that miracle happens every second of the day. And so just think about it. If someone's given up on miracles and they have to be reminded of what they've lost sight or memory of, then you can hand them this book and let Joe do all the heavy lifting. So that's my message for you. Get ready, hold your hats. And Joe, I want to check in with you. Are you ready over there?
I'm ready. I'm strapped in.
All right, here we go. So do I have my screen share? Yes. So that was good for the green room. So when you see the screen share coming up, know that they can't see it until I start talking, and that won't throw you off. All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Stand by, stand by, stand by. All right, we are on Facebook Live, so turn up the volume because mute is the default. And if you're watching my lips move and you can't hear me, come on, turn up the volume. It'll be worth it. I'm going to talk right now, right now, right now. It's Alex Mondosian here. And I don't know if we've met, but what I just did will make sure that we get attention, at least for the first 10 seconds. Now, this is a very special edition of our Friday Hangouts, which we have every Friday, because I have a dear friend, thought leader, author, musician. I'll let him tell you what else he does, but he has been known to millions of people because of a certain movie. which I'll let him tell you more about as well. I haven't spoken to him in 9 years, and yet we start where we left off. Do you have friends like that? Do you have colleagues like that? It's rare, but he's one of them. I met him over 20 years ago, and I think I'll call him a friend as long as we are both breathing, even after that maybe. So I want to introduce you and welcome Mr. or actually Dr. Joe Vitale. Joe, where are you hanging out from today?
I'm at home in a nice comfy office surrounded by books, surrounded by guitars, music, trees out the window, beautiful Texas day. I'm just relaxing in heaven here.
Awesome. Well, this is all about the miracle, and the miracle is a book, and the book is a new book if you're watching, whether the replay or live. And the reason it's a virtual book tour is rather than Joe going from bookstore to bookstore to bookstore, and it's a lot of travel, then instead of having these rallies in individual bookstores, we'd rather have one vast rally that's virtual where you can watch from the comfort of your home, your office. You can watch on your smartphone, tablet, laptop, doesn't matter, desktop, and you can pass this on to others. So we'll give you access to a single chapter. We're encouraging you to buy 3 books, one for yourself, one for a loved one, and one for someone who has lost hope in miracles. And we're going to earn the right, I hope, I know, in the next 30 minutes to get you inspired to do just that. But now, in case you haven't met Joe Vitale before, first of all, where have you been for the past 25 years? But if you haven't, by chance, you may be a millennial maybe. Well, I want you to understand what started this whole thing, not his story in business, but the story of this book. So Joe, the original moment, the time when you were inspired, you were motivated, where were you, what happened, who was surrounding you, why did it happen, how did it come about, what inspired you to write this book?
Great question. I'm reflecting on that because it's a little difficult to talk about because I hadn't really shared this behind the scenes kind of a story. But as you know, I was homeless at one point. I was in poverty for a long time. I struggled. I went through the dark night of the soul. I know what it's like to be desperate, to be unhappy, to be frustrated, to feel like the future is dark and cloudy and there's no hope in sight. I know all of that. But I kept working on myself. I kept growing, and I would practice meditation. I would read all of the different books. I would end up being published, as you would know. I ended up creating and writing about Ho'oponopono, a Hawaiian healing technique. And I kept practicing that Hawaiian healing technique. And then a couple of years ago, I had an experience that some people would call enlightenment, other people would call an awakening or a Satori experience, where all of this, all the loose pieces of the puzzle came together. And I call it the miracle because that transcendent experience was a breakthrough in my life. And even all of the horrible things that happened, all the stuff when I was on the streets and I was homeless and the poverty and having no income and not having a job and not seeing myself be published, it all started to make sense. It all fell into place. And I saw it was all good. It was all good. I didn't know it at the time. You know, we don't know it when we're struggling there and we're crying at night and we can't get to sleep. And so when I had this awakening, I realized that I needed to write this in a way that can take people from that place of maybe still feeling like a victim, but take them through empowerment, take them through this, what I call surrender, but I don't mean giving up. I mean, you're surrendering to a higher power. And at the same time, not stopping there, because you want to get to the place where you actually awaken, where you actually become enlightened. And so I decided in that moment of awakening that I needed to do this, and I needed to write this book for mankind. I mean, I don't know what that sounds like to you, but I needed to write this for a larger purpose, a more noble cause, especially when we look out in the world and we see all these cracks in the universe and we see all this chaos going on and uncertainty about the future. It seemed time that I come out with a book that is telling people, look, you can have miracles and you can realize you are a miracle and that your life is a miracle and all the things you've been trying to attract or achieve are miracles you can have. But you got to clean up the inside of you to do it. So the breakthrough for me was having that awakening and then realizing I think I can communicate this, which is what I've done in this book called The Miracle.
Well, the question that I ask next, the response is typically everyone. And the question is, who was this book written for? Now, that may be the right answer. I don't know. But again, if you just joined us, the book is The Miracle. There's a new book out. This is a virtual book tour of that. The author is Dr. Joe Vitale. And author is short for authority. But here's the cool thing about this topic. Everyone is an authority on miracles. I mean, the moment you were conceived, you beat out 500 million people, right? And you grew a few million times that original size, and 40 weeks later, hopefully you came out head first. Otherwise, your mother really remembers you. And so this is happening every day. Then we lose sight of it. Yes, life hits us like a shovel to the forehead. I got my shovel here, right? But there's also the magic wand too. And there's no magic in the magic wand. It's the meaning we put behind the wave, right? Even abracadabra is Aramaic for through my words I create. So that's a long introduction to who. Who was this book written for, Joe?
Well, I have a magic wand too. I actually have several magic wands because I believe that they help me focus my intention. I don't know if there's anything actually in the wood or the crystal, but it helps me focus my intention because I go, I want to have that, wave my magic wand, and now I can feel like it's going to be magical and happen. So your question was, who is the book for? The book is for the people I was hearing about who were struggling specifically with relationships, money, health, their own future. They were coming from a place of desperation. I want to say everybody should read the book, but I know not everybody reads books, so I can't say it's for everybody. It's for those people that, much like I was struggling so many decades ago, might be struggling now, and they're reaching and they're searching and they're wanting to find a solution, something that can help them get out of the mess, something that can help them get out of the debt. They want to be able to pay their bills. They want to be able to be in a relationship. They want to be able to have better health. They might want a better job or unexpected income. Those people who are looking for more, they're looking for their solution. They're looking for the way out. That's what The Miracle is for.
Yeah, that's a very good point. You have one of my favorite Albert Einstein quotes in the book. Go check it out. It's on Amazon. I'll show you a screenshot in just a moment. But the promise of the book, the subtitle is typically the promise of every book. The promise is the 6 steps to enlightenment. And guys and gals, I know this is a business show typically, but personal, professional, spiritual, mental, emotional life is no longer separated. They all blend in, just a matter of what role you're playing. So there's enlightenment in business. There's enlightenment with family. There's an enlightenment with your spiritual practice, okay? Enlightenment just doesn't mean a spiritual idea, although it could. So don't let this frighten you. And if it does, then come back next week, okay? I want you to stay because you want to stay. But the bottom line is, 6 steps. Joe's going to talk about them in just a moment. But there's a great quote in there, and get the book to check out what it is, by Albert Einstein. And the who, when you were talking about the who, Einstein said nothing happens until something moves. And he was talking about general relativity and the way the universe works, because we've never been in the same place at any given time at any time. I mean, the sun moves 56 times the speed of a bullet around a black hole in our galaxy. It takes 226 million years to make one galactic revolution. I bet you didn't know that. And then the Earth is spinning around the sun, right? And so, by the way, a bullet is 865 miles an hour. So 56 times that, right? And it's 11,000 degrees, always moving. So when people get stuck, they no longer move. And when they stuck, they stagnate, and it doesn't feel right. It's a predicament. So if you're feeling stuck, this book is for you, because until you get unstuck, you're really leaning towards death versus life, whether you're choosing it or not. I think it's a choice. So let's talk about the 6 steps, Joe. What are the 6 steps, and why are they so important? I bet you could have written 20 steps, but you chose 6 instead.
Yeah, I did choose 6, and I chose 6 because that's from my personal experience. And I also want to mention, you said that this is typically for business people, or it's a business-minded show. And I wanted to point out that I am a businessman. I am very much a bottom-line results guy. I am an entrepreneur. I remember I interviewed a famous a new thought leader decades ago, and he said, if your philosophy can't be taken to the bank, then it's not worth anything. And I love that. I never forgot that. And so when I talk about the 6 steps to enlightenment, these steps include your financial well-being. They include your business. They include your selling and include your marketing. How does it include it? It's because the 6 steps to enlightenment have to do with your internal experience. It has to do largely with your belief system. And whether you're in business or not, the results you're getting are a mirror of the beliefs you have inside. For example, I was on a show earlier today, and there was a woman who called in and said she was desperate about money. Her parents had been desperate about money. She was in business. She wasn't getting the sales she wanted. She was frustrated. She was despondent. And I looked at that and I thought, and I answered it this way. I said, look, in the 6 steps to enlightenment in the book, The Miracle, I say that what you want to do is clean up the beliefs that are causing you not to have money. And there's 2 in particular, just with money alone. And I'm going to focus on money because you mentioned that these people might be business oriented that watch your show here. And so the 2 beliefs about money, one is they think money's bad. They think money's bad. Almost everybody has the unconscious belief that money is the root of all. I don't even have to finish the sentence. Everybody just said evil. So if people think money's evil, they will go ahead and they will make their cold calls and they will do their advertising, their marketing and everything else. But unconsciously, they will sabotage their own efforts to have money come in. That's not a very enlightened approach to having business or to make money. So the very first thing is you want to make peace with money and realize money is neutral. Money is not anything but what we project onto it. Money in and of itself, paper coin, doesn't mean anything. But we can use it to make great dreams come true. The second thing when it comes to money is that most people don't feel they deserve good things in life. They don't deserve good things because unconsciously they think they're not good enough, they're not lovable, they're not likable, or they're just not enough. All of this is what I'm addressing in the book because the 6 steps to enlightenment are referring to things you have to do along the way. And the very first one is cleaning up the belief system. For example, the very first step is called the missing secret in the book. I won't go through all 6 because it'll take too much time. But the very first step is called the missing secret. What does that refer to? All those people who watched the movie The Secret that came out 10 years ago and they heard about the law of attraction, and some of them tried that or some other self-improvement method and it didn't work. And then they became critics or they became skeptical. They didn't realize, and this is the missing secret, that the results you're getting in life are coming from your unconscious beliefs, not your conscious beliefs. You can sit there and you can affirm, you can visualize, you can meditate, you can write scripts, you can do all kind of wonderful things for attracting more money or your relationship or enlightenment, spiritual awakening, anything that you want. But the missing secret says if you have beliefs in your unconscious/subconscious mind that veto what you want, you won't get what you want. You will actually slow it down or stop it, and you will sabotage it on an unconscious level. You'll look out in the world and you'll blame everybody else. You'll blame other people. You'll blame the movie. You'll blame anybody you can think of. You blame the government. You'll blame somebody, not realizing the results you're getting are coming from you. That's what enlightenment is all about, is to realize the reality you have, whether you're talking about your business or your health or your relationships, whatever you want to talk about there, is a direct mirror of what your internal experience is all about. And I go through each one of those steps to bring people through victimhood to empowerment to awakening.
All right. Well, I have a very special visitor here. Bree, come here. I need to embarrass her because that's my job. She's 14. I'm 53. Oh, wow. She just walked in. This is Brianna.
Hi, Brianna.
Hi.
And during this time, literally 5 years ago, we almost lost this miracle.
Oh, wow.
And I reached out to thousands and thousands of people as a businessman. And 10,000, 12,000 people prayed all at the same time. I don't know if you remember it. But she was in the intensive care, pediatric intensive care in Oakland, Children's Hospital, thank God. And after 10 days, all the drama went away. And here she is, 5 years later. So that's a miracle. Yes.
Wow, it's great to meet the miracle. Wow, you're beautiful too. Look at you.
All right, now that we thoroughly embarrassed you, she's never going to come back to my office again. She's writing on my whiteboard, Dad, can I erase the other whiteboard? And I'm saying, yes, and come here.
That's funny. Hey, I want to tell you, though, what you mentioned there about the group meditation, I talk about that in The Miracle because there's 30-some studies that have shown, and I've done it too on causes. There were fires in Texas. There were floods in Texas. My mother was dying. I've used that. That's part of what I talk about in the book because we're all connected on this energy level. And I did not know that story, Alex. What a wonderful story and what a wonderful daughter. I just absolutely love that.
Well, I love it too, and I love that she's with us. And
yes,
we did have from the Transformational Leadership Council and names that you would recognize. We had Qigong masters who were praying for her. But look, when we feel disconnected, we don't feel enough. When we feel connected, we not only feel enough, but we have that much more power. So I think that whether you feel enough or not right now, this is a great page to go to. Just look it up on Amazon. I'll show you another page where you can have a direct link, but it's on Amazon. Look up The Miracle, and you have a choice here. You can get the Kindle, the paperback, or even on Audible. And I'm going to give you some instructions on what to do with the order number because Joe has a very special set of bonuses for you. I'm not going to give that up just yet, but look, if it sounds like it's a commercial for Joe, no, it's an intention from my heart to yours because that's really how miracles happen. You have to have an intention. And if the intention is not going to work, then guess what? You know, you're right. It's a projection. So my favorite chapter or my favorite step of the 6 steps is the RAS intention. I knew intention had to be in there. So let's go deep. Let's go deep dish, as my friend Lisa Sasevich says. Let's go deep dish on what the RAS intention is so that when people read it, it's their second go around and they get it right from the author's mouth.
Yeah, well, great. It's the second step in here because we're working through our body-mind system in order to get to the miracle. That's why it's called The Miracle, 6 Steps to Enlightenment. And I made the RAS the second step because we're working with our mind and we're working with how to program it to help you achieve the results you want. And again, whether that's in business and you want more money or it's your relationship, whatever it happens to be, you can have, do, or be virtually anything. Napoleon Hill said it, you've said it, I've said it, I believe it, I'm putting it out there. But how do you do that? Well, we have something in our brain called the reticular activating system. That's the RAS. And it's in the back of your head, right above the brainstem there. That's where it's located. And it's programmed right now to keep you alive. It's programmed for survival. And congratulations to you because you are watching this, so you're surviving and you have a fully functioning RAS system. It's working right now. But what most people don't know is that you can program it for something else to do, not just survival. So if you do want your business to increase, if you do want to find your soulmate, if you do want the new car or the spiritual awakening, or fill in the blank, what you want to do is activate the RAS with a new intention. Now, the way the reticular activating system works is that it wants to see something. It wants to see what you want. It wants an image. It works by the mental visualization. That's one way to program it. So you would find a photo of the house that you want, or the photo of the car that you want, or pictures of more money, or whatever that would represent for you, to tell the reticular activating system, I want this item. So you find a visual representation of it. That's the first step. The second step is you fire up the RAS with emotion. That's the fire that you add to the tank. So now you want to feel love for what you're looking for. And in fact, a rule of thumb is you attract into your life the things you love, the things you hate, and the things you fear. Why? Because that's high energy emotion that activates the reticular activating system. So that's a tip. Focus more on what you love, not on what you hate, not on what you fear. So now you're finding an image and you're loading it up with passion and love to program that reticular activating system. And then the third thing you do to program it fully is you repeat it. So that means every night before you go to sleep, which is a great time to program your mind, is you're visualizing this end result you want. You're adding emotion to it. You're really getting into the experience of it, and then you just go to sleep. But you do that in the morning, in the night, whenever you think of it, because the repetition is going to make it branded and rewire the reticular activating system. So now it's still got to keep you surviving because it already has that hardwired intention there, but we're adding a new intention, the thing that you want to have, do, or be. It's magic.
It is. And I've had this conversation with Darren Hardy of Success Magazine. He has his own morning show now. We actually use it as a verb, Joe. We say, let's go RAS, this thing. It's super
Beautiful.
cool. Like Google that phrase or Facebook that person. And once something becomes a verb, that it's activated. But one point you made, those of you who feel stuck, there's probably one or more places in life you feel stuck, especially this time of year. Well, emotion causes motion, right? Emotion. And motion gets you unstuck. Even if you're going in the wrong direction, you're going somewhere, right? So as a kid, I used to play with the steering wheel in my dad's car. Thank God I couldn't, push on the accelerator and didn't have the keys. But that steering wheel is meaningless without the emotion of revving up the engine, which is the heart of the car, right? So you need to go in a direction, and that steering, you can see that as maybe the head, but you need the emotion pressing down the accelerator so you actually do move. And not reaching the accelerator pedal is what kept me alive when I was playing in my dad's car back in the day. So tell me more about emotion before we get to one that pops up again and again, which is anger. We'll get to that in a moment. But I don't think people think about emotion enough intentionally. They just let it happen to them. Speak to that a bit.
I love what you just said. Most people do just let it happen to them. And this is all part of what the miracle is trying to get across. We want to awaken to how we've been operating unconsciously. Emotions are actually being stemmed from beliefs. Everybody is asking, does the thought come first? Does the belief come first? Does the emotion come first? What is all of this about? That thoughts are coming first. The thoughts are creating this emotion. And then very often you're stuck in the emotion and you don't slow down enough to realize what was the thought that triggered the emotion. Because the emotion was triggered by a thought that was right before it, but probably happened like that. And you didn't realize it. It was just automatic. It was programmed in you. And what we're doing here is almost like treating life as a moment by moment meditation. And we're slowing down. We want to slow our breathing down, slow our thought process down, so we can become more aware and more sensitive moment by moment to what we're thinking, what we're feeling, and what we're believing. And the best news of all is that you can change what you're thinking and believing, which will change your feelings and your emotions. You can have a far more peaceful, more loving, more passionate life once you start deprogramming the beliefs that have been charging you up with the emotions of anger or unhappiness or frustration or whatever, bitterness, or any of the other emotions that have been there.
Well, there's thinking, there's feeling and doing, and it starts with thinking, like you said. And so I want you to think about coming to a page that looks like this. If you're listening and you can't see, there's a button that says order on Amazon now. And that's step one. Now, I recommend 3 books, one for you, one for a friend, and one for a loved one who maybe has lost hope in creating miracles, even though it's at their fingertips every day. And so the headline says, do you want to create miracles in your life? And if you're just listening, that's what it says at the top. When I click on order on Amazon now, then the Amazon page comes up with the miracle. And you can look inside if you'd like. But after you order the book, whether it's the Kindle or the soft cover, then you type in your email address and your first name back at this page. I'm going to give you the URL to go to this specific page, and then the Amazon receipt number. And then click on this beautiful orange button that says, I want to claim my bonuses. And there are over $6,000 worth of bonuses, legitimately $6,000. If you want more detail on how it works, there are 2 steps here of how it works. And then you can see what happens if you buy 1 copy, 2 to 99 copies, 100 to 250 copies, or over 250 copies. And if you're thinking, what? Why would I buy 250 copies? For 249 other miracles, my friends. That's why. I mean, that's dirt cheap for a miracle, don't you think? Now, Twitter, Facebook, Google+, you can tell your friends and family. There's some endorsements here as you scroll down the page. A picture of Joe, the Beginner's Guide to Miracles with Joe Vitale. It's one of the bonuses, just under $200. And then there's some more as you scroll down the page. That's what I'm looking at now if you're listening to the audio. Now, where do you find this page? Well, if you're watching the replay, you can't see it, but Sue Sierra, our production manager, is typing it in right now if you're watching live. But here's where you got to go. marketingonline.com/miracle. And I'm so grateful to Joe because I've been wanting this forwarding domain for such a long time. I didn't know where to point it to. And then when I found out that Joe was having this book, I said, all right, look, I want to do it just so I can use that / because I've been wanting to use Miracle. My intention has been, where am I going to direct it to? And why not direct it towards the authority, just like you are, on how to get to miracles faster, better, and with less human effort, and in 6 steps. Now that brings me to an emotion that really is the surface of another emotion, which I believe is hurt, like hurt or grief. You know, above that, for me anyway, surfaces anger. That's like the overt manifestation of like a deeper emotion that's a little bit more melancholy than this thing. But anger is fiery. I mean, I'm Armenian. I come from a lineage of angry people. And page 191, okay, what to do when anger pops up. And it's like a whack-a-mole, you know? I know some very enlightened people, self-acknowledged, which I think enlightenment should be, who get angry, like a lot. I see it a lot. Now, I don't look at it as, oh, that's kind of hypocritical, because I got 3 fingers pointing back at me. And in Asia, you can't even point. It's offensive. So we go like this, right? So bottom line is it pops up no matter what. Not if it's going to happen, when it happens. And Joe speaks to this. He doesn't do this woo-woo thing like ignore it. So page 191, check it out. I'm doing it deliberately so you get the damn book, okay? Check it out and watch what happens, or what he says could happen when anger pops up. Joe, give us the Cliff Notes Reader's Digest version of anger and the 6 steps, because it's going to happen.
Yeah, well, there's a lot to it, which is why, I wrote the book, and I've got several passages in there and several processes in there, because I'm very much a process guy. And some people have said this is like an encyclopedia of different techniques you can use no matter what's going on in your life. So when anger comes up, I'm a big fan of using the emotional freedom technique, which was originally called the thought-filled therapy. Some people just call it the tapping technique. And I tell people how to do it in the book. I walk them through it. But if I were feeling angry right now, and I'm not, I'm happy, I'm glad to see you, I'm glad to be here, this is fun. But if I were, I would note that I'm angry, and I would not resist it. I'd go, okay, I am angry. And maybe I'd look for the belief. Maybe there's the belief of hurt, or I wanted it to be another way, or I feel like it's unfair to me, or it's unbalanced. But whatever it is, I'm feeling angry and I know it. I'm going to tap it away. And I'll tap and the underside of the karate part of my hand here, and I'll start tapping. And what I say is, even though I'm angry, I deeply love, accept, and forgive myself. Even though I'm angry, I deeply love, accept, and forgive myself. And I'll say that 3 times while I'm sitting here. And it doesn't matter if you were feeling embarrassed. Even though I'm embarrassed, I deeply love, accept, and forgive myself. You can use this on anything. I start there. I take the key word. In this case, it was anger. So after I've set it up by tapping here, I tap on my crown area, and I'll say anger, anger, anger. And then I'll go in between the eyebrows, anger, anger, anger. On the outside, I'm doing it faster than normal, but anger, anger, anger. Under the eyes, anger, anger, anger. And I'm tapping hard enough that if I was knocking on a door, you would feel that. Under the nose, anger, anger. Under here, anger, anger. Over on my shoulder, anger, anger, anger. And then I'll finish tapping right in this little circle by thumb and index finger. Anger, anger, anger. And what I'm doing, as bizarre as it might look, I mean, there's movies about this, books about this, a lot of websites about this, a lot of evidence about this, a lot of case stories about this. It's like psychological acupuncture. I am tapping the energy off of me, out of me. I am opening the meridian, the energy centers within me. And it might sound crazy to a lot of people, but I have been doing this. I learned it thought field therapy from Roger Callahan, who was a guy who was credited for inventing it. I learned it directly from him, and then it became emotional freedom technique, emotional, whatever it is now, psychological acupuncture. But it's a great way to dilute the anger or whatever else might have been going on that you were feeling at the time. But it's one of many processes.
Well, the root principle there is still the root principle of the first step of every recovery program, whether you believe in them or not, and that is acceptance. And so just accepting and identifying it versus rejecting or denying it. Never underestimate the power of denial. If you have children, then you know it's true. If you ever were a child, then you know it's true. So the key is acceptance and working through that process. And I want to underscore, Joe is a process guy. A miracle is a process. It's not just a point in time. It is a process. And we look at miracles as binary. It's either one or it isn't. No, man, you could be like 20% there, 50% there, 80% there. You get momentum going, right? So in less than 2 minutes, I want you to tell me the difference between human mind and divine mind, because you talk about it a lot. It is a key point in the book. And I want to get the Joe Vitale accelerated version at 120 miles an hour.
All right. Well, the bottom line is that your ego versus the divine mind. It's your little pipsqueak of a mind that is thinking, I understand how the universe works. I understand how to get things. Where the opposite of that is the universe itself, the universe of all possibilities, is wider, vaster, deeper, and more well-connected than your ego. Your ego isn't supposed to drive the bus. You're supposed to be servant to what I call the divine. Lately, I've been calling the divine the great something, because some people call it God, some people call it the divine, some people call it the universe, some people call it Gaia, and it gets confusing because all of these different terms have baggage with them. So I'm calling it the great something. The great something is bigger than me, wiser than me, more connected to me. So I don't want to pretend that I know how to do everything. That's the human mind. That's the limited little pipsqueak of a mind that's looking out a little porthole on a ship thinking that it sees the entire horizon, where the great something, the divine mind, can see all of it from the top of the ship, and in fact is the ship and the water and you. Did I do it in 2 minutes? You
did awesome. And I love spiritual ambiguity because it makes it very acceptable to everyone involved.
Right. I love it. Spiritual ambiguity.
So let's look at one final question. I never like to start on page 1. I didn't with your book. I started actually on around page 191. If there were one page that you would invite people to go to first so they can scroll through or they can flip through if they get the physical version, what page would that be? I mean, we can't speak to the audible version of it. I would get both, so you listen to it in the car and you can read it. But what page would you have them go to? What topic?
Yeah, I would. That's a great question. I'm a big fan of bibliotherapy. Bibliotherapy is when you just hold a question in mind and you just flip through the book, and wherever you land, that's your answer. Just treat it as your answer. But I'll answer your question. I would say 159, page 159, because I tell a hilarious true story that happened to me that proved to me and to everybody that reads the book that you are in charge of your reality. Page 159. Has to do with a Bentley. I'll just let it go. But page 159.
I know that story. And look, you're in charge of reality whether you believe in it or not. That's the best part. So one place to go, marketingonline.com/miracle. Everything is on that page. I showed it to you before. Go there. And it doesn't matter what time of year, doesn't matter when you're watching it. Go there, think about it, feel it, take action, grab your mouse, grab your keyboard, and do whatever it takes. I'm going to encourage 3 books. I'm going to encourage one for you, one for a loved one, one for someone who has lost hope and faith in miracles, and let Joe do the heavy lifting. You don't want to do the heavy lifting. Let him do it, right? So I'm going to go to the final word, Joe. Final word, great virtual book tour. What would you leave our audience with?
Well, first of all, thank you for doing this, Alex. You are very giving, very generous. I appreciate your friendship, you, and the long time we've known each other. This is a great gift. Thank you. I would remind people that whatever you're going through right now is what I call temporary current reality. It's going to change by itself because the momentum of life changes. But if you want to accelerate the change, you want to direct the change, and you want to have, do, or be whatever you can imagine being your change, then I would say start to do some of the things I'm talking about in the book, The Miracle. There's 6 steps to enlightenment. There's a lot of processes in there. Surely there's a lot of those that are going to be immediately applicable to you. So you can have, do, or be whatever you want. Hang in there. The sun does rise again.
That's awesome. On behalf of Dr. Joe Vitale and his team out in Texas, I'm Alex Mondosian here in San Rafael, California, which is just north of San Francisco. I want to thank you for making it this far. I want to encourage you to take the next step with a book. A tree has sacrificed itself for the soft cover. Go for it. And if you want to go green, there's the digital version as well. You can get it in Kindle where you're just reading based on molecules. And then you can also listen to it as well. Everything that you need as it relates to this event is at marketingonline.com/miracle. Now it's in your hands. So I can't wait for our paths to cross again. And write back to me and let me know what you thought of the pages we outlined here. All good wishes, and see you soon. Okay, that's the main version. Good job, Joe.
Yeah, that was great. Thank you, Alex.
Hey, Joe, I got a confession to make. I'm going to make one. Here we go.
Yeah.
Okay, I always tell you the truth, right? Not
Yeah.
because it's the right thing to do, like my mom said. It's because it's more persuasive than not telling the truth. So here's the truth. And plus, I make more money telling the truth, too. It's weird, but it works that way. So I believe in it. This was a recording. We're recording this on Wednesday, which I'm so grateful because my daughter would not have been here on Friday. She would have been in school. But it just happens that she gets out early on Wednesdays, and boom, we're recording it. And the reason I'm telling on myself is because Sue has been busy typing, and I told Joe that I would be doing this. But that does not prevent us from telling you how we feel about this book and getting a few more inside tips in the next 4 or 5 minutes from Joe. First of all, what was the experience like? It's not the first time I've interviewed you, but what was the experience like? And put all stroking aside, just tell me the truth. What'd you think?
I loved it. I loved how you you did a very human thing. You went with the spontaneity of the moment, which I think is really miraculous all by itself. Your daughter appeared, because I saw you for a second there, you looked off, and you kind of said, sure, don't bother me, or something like that. But you had a smile in your eyes, so I knew it was somebody friendly, probably your dog or something. I didn't know what it was. But then it ends up being your daughter, who you introduce, and you tie it in with this beautiful, authentic, true story that touched me, surprised me. And obviously she's beautiful, and her eyes lit up when you were talking about her. That was a beautiful, divine, unexpected moment. That's awesome.
Well, and it's unexpected and it was spontaneous, but it doesn't mean it wasn't a miracle. For me, that was a miracle moment. I mean,
yes.
The chance that, first of all, that has never happened. Never. And I have a video of those 10 days because I took videos because I thought we were going to lose her. So I have videos of her, in the ICU. It's at BriannaThanksYou.com. You guys can check it out. But I'll warn you, she's looks like we're going to lose her. And then when she came back, I thought, wow, we had all these prayers. Why don't I thank everyone? And so I took all those pictures, turned it into a 3.5-minute video. And thanks to Natalie Merchant, who wrote a song called "Thank You," kind and generous, that we did it to that song. But the thing is, when I read the book, because you sent me a digital version, when I read the book to prepare for this, all I could think of was Brianna, because that was like a 10-day miracle. And so there's always one incident that I believe stands out more than any other. Does any one incident for you, Joe, come to mind where, wow, all miracles are created equal, but some are remembered a little bit more than others? Does anyone come to mind?
Yeah, immediately comes to mind. It's in the book, The Miracle, too. 5 years ago, I was called back to Ohio, which is where I'm from, because my mother was dying and, in fact, was on her deathbed and, in fact, was in the urgent care in the hospital. and such intensive urgent care that there were only 4 other people in the little room that she had to be in because they had round the clock coverage. And we were all called in as a family because we're saying our goodbyes. And as I'm sitting there with my mother, I went through different emotions, including anger. And as I processed those emotions, I went back to the healing technique that I talk about in the book, and I mentioned the Ho'oponopono, the spiritual healing technique from Hawaii that I use a lot. And I used it on myself because that's what it's all about. You take care of yourself, and as you take care of yourself, you get to that place of peace that could influence other people around you. Well, I did that until I got to my place of peace. And not only did my mother get better, but she went home and she stayed with us for the next 5 years. And that's the kind of thing that your jaw drops and you're grateful to the great something beyond belief. And much like your own experience, you know, I get teary-eyed. I can't find the words to express it, but that's an example of one that comes to mind.
That's a great example. And in my case, it wasn't the 10 days for Brianna, but it was a moment when this happened. She was misdiagnosed, you know, with one condition, and she had another condition. She was misdiagnosed with croup, and she had the flu, and she got a staph infection in the hospital where staph infections are. And I mean, they just had her both hands tied behind her back, you know, physically, to the point where she was almost gone. And there was one moment where my then wife and I were in the emergency room, and the chaplain comes in. And the chaplain heard something from me I don't think he ever heard, and we became friends afterwards. But you've heard of WTF? Well, I said, GTF, out of here. Meaning I am not ready for you for last rites or anything like that, okay? This is not the time. And so I remember seeing his shoes. He's a tall dude. And he was just taken aback a little bit. I said, no offense, but I don't want that energy in here. You can bring the Holy Spirit with the intention that, you know, she's coming back home. And so Jack Canfield sent her a stuffed bear. She's hugging the bear in the hospital. We take pictures and stuff, send it to Jack. He was weeping like a baby, you know. But that was a moment, you know, and those moments, like with your mom.
Yeah.
Oh man, I mean, you got 5 years more nectar out of that moment.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Wow.
Pretty cool, man. Well, listen, Joe and I make up when we don't see each other for about a decade. You know, we want to make sure we accelerate. So thanks for joining us. Thanks for watching this. And you're just watching, you know, 2 friends having fun and one friend honoring another for making such an impact. And you are not far removed from that impact. You're 1 click away to get this book. I get 3 books, you know that. And bottom line is, am I wanting you to get it? Yeah, I am. I mean, yes, get it. And I want 3 so that we can spread the news, because fewer people will watch this virtual book tour than actually get access to the book, thanks to you. So let's do a 3-time multiple. I'm not getting paid for this. Joe ultimately is getting paid very, very little, if you know the way Amazon works. We just want to get the word out, and so many people have been generous with their bonus offers for this. So again, thanks for joining us. You know how I feel about you, and I can't wait for our paths to cross again next week. Bye.